The stars looked different through the viewing windows of the Serenity's edge. Captain Maria Santos stood on the bridge, watching the endless black space filled with tiny lights. Behind her, the soft clicking sounds of the Zephyrian delegation filled the quiet air. Ambassador Kithara moved carefully across the bridge. Her body looked like living crystal shaped into the form of a deer. When she walked, tiny bell-like sounds came from her feet touching the metal floor. The light from the ship's controls made rainbow colors dance across her clear skin. "Captain Santos," Kithara said in her musical voice, "your ship approaches the new world. Are your people ready for this great step?" Maria turned from the window. Even after 6 months of traveling together, she still felt amazed by the aliens' beauty. The Zephyrians were the first alien race humans had ever met. Their crystal bodies were fragile and clear, like expensive glass sculptures that could break if touched too hard. "We're as ready as we can be," Maria replied. 50,000 colonists ready to build a new home. Thanks to your people showing us this planet." Kethara's crystal head tilted slightly. This was something humans did when they were confused. But Maria had learned that Zephyrians did it when they were worried. "Captain, I must speak of something that troubles my mind," the ambassador said. "My people have studied yours for these many months. We find your species difficult to understand." "How so?" Maria asked, though she already knew what was coming. "Your people evolved from hunters, predators. Your eyes face forward to track prey. Your teeth can tear meat. Your history is filled with violence and war." Kethara's voice became softer, almost afraid. "Yet you claim to be peaceful. You say you want to build, not destroy." Maria nodded slowly. This was not the first time they had talked about this. The Zephyrians came from prey animals, creatures that ran from danger instead of fighting it. Their whole world was built on avoiding conflict and living in harmony. The idea of a predator species that could be peaceful was hard for them to believe. "I understand your concern," Maria said. "But humans are more than just our past. Yes, we were hunters once, but we learned to grow food instead of just taking it. We learned to build cities instead of just fighting over territory. We learned to help each other instead of just competing. But the instincts remain," Kethara said. "Deep in your minds, the hunter still lives. What happens when your people face danger on this new world? What happens when resources become limited? Will the predator return?" Before Maria could answer, the ship's AI spoke with its calm, mechanical voice. "Attention all crew and passengers. We have arrived at Kepler 442c. Colony ship Serenity's Edge is now in stable orbit. Preparation for surface landing will begin in 2 hours." The bridge became busy with activity. Human crew members moved quickly to their stations, checking systems and preparing for the most important mission in human history. The Zephyrians gathered together, their crystal bodies clicking and chiming as they talked in their own language. Maria watched Ambassador Kithara carefully. The alien's clear body seemed to glow with nervous energy. Maria knew that the Zephyrians were here to watch and report back to something called the Galactic Peaceful Alliance. This was a group of alien species that had come together to avoid war and conflict. All of them were herbivores, plant-eaters like the Zephyrians. The Alliance was very suspicious of predator species. They believed that creatures that evolved to hunt and kill could never truly be peaceful. They thought that predators would always return to violence when things became difficult. "Ambassador," Maria said quietly, "I know your people are watching us carefully. I know you're here to report on whether humans can be trusted. All I can promise is that you'll see the truth of who we are." Kethara's large eyes, which looked like perfect diamonds, focused on Maria. "Captain, I hope you are correct. My people want to believe that cooperation between predator and prey is possible, but we are afraid. Our entire evolution taught us to fear creatures like humans, and our evolution taught us to hunt," Maria replied. "But evolution also gave us the ability to choose a different path. You'll see." On the main screen, the planet Kepler 442c appeared as a blue and green marble floating in space. It looked almost exactly like Earth, with white clouds swirling over brown and green continents. The sight made everyone on the bridge stop talking for a moment. Dr. Sarah Chen, the mission's lead scientist, joined them at the viewing window. Her 8-year-old daughter Emma pressed against the glass next to her, eyes wide with wonder. "It's beautiful, Mom," Emma whispered. "Look, it has forests just like Earth." Kethara moved closer to look at the child. The Zephyrians found human children especially puzzling. They couldn't understand how such innocent creatures could grow up to become predators. "Young one," Kithara said gently. Are you not afraid of this unknown world? Emma looked up at the crystal alien with curious eyes. Why would I be afraid? We're going to explore and learn new things. Maybe we'll meet animals and make friends with them. The innocent words made Kithara's body dim slightly. Make friends with animals? The child spoke as if all creatures could be trusted. But what would happen when Emma encountered real predators on this new world? Would her human instincts take over? Would she become a hunter like her ancestors? Emma, Dr. Chen said, why don't you go help the other families prepare for landing? After Emma left, skipping happily down the corridor, Kithara turned to Dr. Chen. Your child speaks of making friends with unknown creatures. Do you not teach your young to fear danger? Dr. Chen smiled. We teach them to be careful and smart, but we also teach them that not everything different is dangerous. Sometimes the scariest looking things can become your best friends. Impossible, Kithara said, her voice filled with disbelief. Predators and prey cannot be friends. Nature does not work that way. Maybe not on your world, Maria said. But humans have been making friends with predators for thousands of years. We live with wolves and big cats and bears. We've learned that understanding is more powerful than fear. Kithara's crystal body flickered with confused colors. Everything humans said went against everything her people believed about the natural order. Predators were dangerous. Prey animals survived by avoiding them. How could humans claim to live peacefully with creatures that should be their enemies? The next few hours were filled with busy preparation. The first wave of colonists would land in specialized pods to set up the basic camp. Dr. Chen and her team would study the planet's life forms to make sure they were safe for humans. But as the Serenity's Edge prepared for humanity's first steps on a new world, Ambassador Kithara stood alone in her quarters, sending a message back to the Zephyrian homeworld. The humans prepare to colonize the new planet, she reported. They speak of peace and cooperation, but I remain concerned. Their predator nature runs deep. When they encounter the dangerous creatures that surely live on this world, their true nature will be revealed. I will watch carefully and report what I observe. The Alliance must know if these humans can be trusted, or if they are simply predators in disguise. As the first landing pods launched toward the planet's surface, both species prepared for what would become the most important test in human-alien relations. The Zephyrians expected to see humans become violent hunters when faced with danger. The humans hoped to prove that intelligence and compassion could overcome ancient instincts. None of them knew that the planet below held creatures that would challenge everything both species believed about predators, prey, and the nature of friendship itself. The colony ship continued its orbit, carrying hopes and fears toward an uncertain future on a world where nothing would be quite what it seemed. 3 weeks had passed since the first humans set foot on Kepler 442c. Haven Base now stretched across a wide meadow surrounded by tall trees that looked similar to Earth's pines, but with silver bark that caught the sunlight like mirrors. The colonists had worked hard to build their new home, and the basic structures were already taking shape. Dr. Sarah Chen stood at the edge of the settlement, watching her daughter Emma play with the other children near a small stream. The planet's air was clean and fresh, filled with the sounds of alien birds that sang melodies unlike anything on Earth. 2 suns hung in the sky, one yellow like Earth's sun, and one smaller red one that painted everything with a warm glow. The atmospheric readings are perfect, Dr. Chen said into her recording device. Oxygen levels at 21%, just like Earth. The plant life is processing carbon dioxide exactly as our models predicted. This world is even better than we hoped. Behind her, Ambassador Kithara clicked nervously across the ground. The Zephyrian had been growing more anxious each day as the humans explored further from their base. Her crystal body flickered with worried colors whenever the human children ventured too close to the forest edge. Dr. Chen, Kithara said, your people take too many risks. This world is unknown. There could be dangerous predators hiding in those trees. That's exactly why we're here, Sarah replied, adjusting her scanner. To learn about this world and everything living on it. We can't hide in our base forever. But your child? Kithara pointed toward Emma with one crystal finger. She shows no fear. She acts as if this alien world is as safe as your home planet. Sarah watched Emma collect colorful stones from the stream bank. The 8-year-old girl had adapted to the new world faster than most adults. She had already learned to identify which local berries were safe to eat and which small creatures were friendly enough to observe up close. Emma understands that being careful doesn't mean being afraid, Sarah explained. We've taught her to respect nature while still exploring it. A beeping sound from Sarah's equipment made both women turn toward the scanner display. The device was picking up large life forms about 2 kilometers north deep in the forest. The readings showed creatures much bigger than anything they had discovered so far. What is it? Kethara asked, her voice tight with worry. Sarah frowned at the screen. I'm reading 7 large animals. They're moving together in a coordinated pattern. Weight estimates suggest they're each about the size of a large earth wolf, but bigger, much bigger. The crystal alien's body immediately dimmed to a dark purple color, the Zephyrian equivalent of turning pale with fear. Coordinated movement means pack hunters. Dr. Chen, you must call your people back to the base immediately. Let's not panic yet, Sarah said, though her own voice had become more serious. We need to observe them first and understand what we're dealing with. That evening, the science team gathered in the main communication dome to review the day's findings. The dome was made of clear material that let them see the alien stars while protecting them from the cool night air. Emma sat beside her mother, drawing pictures of the strange new animals they had seen. Captain Santos joined them via video link from the Serenity's edge, still orbiting above. Ambassador Kethara stood with several other Zephyrians, their crystal bodies creating a soft musical sound as they whispered among themselves. Show me what you found, Captain Santos said from the main screen. Dr. Chen activated the holo display, showing 3-dimensional images of the large creatures. They looked like wolves, but longer and more muscular. Their fur was dark with glowing blue stripes that ran along their sides and legs. Their eyes reflected light like mirrors, and their teeth were clearly visible even in the distant scanner images. We're calling them lumen wolves because of the bioluminescent markings, Dr. Chen explained. They're approximately 2 meters long, probably weighing around 80 kilograms each. They move in perfect coordination, suggesting high intelligence and complex social structure. Ambassador Kethara stepped forward, her voice filled with alarm. Captain Santos, these are clearly apex predators. The pack behavior, the size, the physical characteristics, everything indicates extreme danger. The humans must evacuate immediately. Now hold on, Captain Santos replied. We didn't come all this way to run from the first large animals we encounter. Dr. Chen, what's your assessment? Sarah looked at the images again. They're definitely predators, but I'm seeing some interesting behaviors. They stopped at the edge of our sensor range and seemed to observe our base for several minutes before moving away. That suggests curiosity rather than aggression. Curiosity? Kethara's voice rose to an almost musical shriek. These are death dealers. Apex predators do not show curiosity, they show hunger. Emma looked up from her drawing. Mom, they look like the wolves in my animal books from Earth. Are they dangerous like the Crystal Lady says? Before Sarah could answer, a sound echoed across the settlement from the northern forest. It was a long, deep howl that seemed to carry on the night wind. The sound was beautiful and haunting, but also clearly powerful. More howls joined the first one, creating a chorus that made the hair on every human's arm stand up. The effect on the Zephyrians was immediate and dramatic. All 5 crystal aliens froze completely, their bodies going completely clear like glass. Ambassador Kethara began to vibrate with a high-pitched whining sound. Predator calls, she gasped. They're hunting. They're announcing their territory. We must hide! The humans, however, had a different reaction. Several colonists came out of their buildings to listen to the sounds. Dr. Chen activated her recording equipment to capture the howls for analysis. It's incredible, she whispered. Listen to the complexity of those calls. There are at least 7 different voices, each with a distinct tone and pattern. This isn't just noise, it's communication. Emma stood up from her drawing, tilting her head to listen better. They sound sad, she said quietly. Like they're looking for something. Sad? Kethara stared at the human child in complete confusion. How can you hear sadness in the calls of apex predators? The howls continued for several more minutes before gradually fading away. The Zephyrians remained frozen until the forest became completely quiet again. Captain Santos leaned forward on the communication screen. Dr. Chen, I want a full scientific assessment of these creatures, but I also want maximum safety protocols. No one goes into that forest alone. Understood, Captain, Sarah replied. We'll set up observation posts and try to study them from a safe distance. This is madness, Ambassador Kethara said. her crystal body flickering with angry red colors. The Galactic Peaceful Alliance has studied predator species for thousands of years. They do not observe, they attack. They do not communicate, they hunt. These humans are walking into certain death. After the communication ended, Dr. Chen tucked Emma into her sleeping bag in their small family quarters. The little girl was still thinking about the howling sounds from the forest. "Mom," Emma said sleepily, "why is the Crystal Lady so scared of the wolves?" "The Zephyrians evolved differently than we did," Sarah explained. "Their ancestors were prey animals, creatures that had to run and hide from predators to survive. So they're naturally afraid of any animal that might hunt them. But humans are predators too, and they're not afraid of us." Sarah paused, surprised by her daughter's insight. "That's actually a very good point. I think the Zephyrians are still trying to understand humans. We're probably the first predator species they've met that doesn't want to hurt them. Maybe the wolves don't want to hurt anyone either," Emma suggested. "Maybe they're just lonely and looking for friends." As Sarah kissed her daughter goodnight, she thought about those words. Could an 8-year-old child be seeing something that trained scientists and experienced aliens were missing? Were they all so focused on the danger that they couldn't see other possibilities? Outside their quarters, the alien night was filled with strange sounds and the light of unfamiliar stars. Somewhere in the northern forest, the lumen wolves had stopped their calling, but Dr. Chen had the feeling that this was just the beginning. The next morning would bring new discoveries, new fears, and new questions about the nature of predators and prey on this strange new world. Ambassador Cathara sent another report to the Zephyrian homeworld that night. The humans refused to flee from the apex predators. They speak of studying these death dealers as if they were harmless creatures. Their young show no proper fear responses. I believe the humans' predator nature makes them underestimate danger, because they are used to being the hunters themselves. This situation will end in violence. I am certain of it. But in her family quarters, 8-year-old Emma Chen dreamed of blue-striped wolves singing lonely songs under alien stars, and wondered if anyone was listening to what they were really trying to say. The storm came without warning during Emma's 5th week on the new planet. Dark clouds rolled across the sky like a giant gray blanket, blocking out both suns. The wind picked up, making the silver-barked trees bend and sway. Rain began to fall in heavy drops that drummed against the dome roofs of Haven Base. Dr. Sarah Chen stood in the science lab, watching the weather readings on her screen. Lightning flashed across the sky, followed by thunder that shook the ground. The storm was much stronger than anything their weather satellites had predicted. "Mom, look at this," Emma called from the observation window. She pressed her face against the clear material, watching the lightning paint the sky in bright white lines. "Stay away from the windows during the lightning," Sarah warned, but she couldn't help smiling at her daughter's excitement. Even in the middle of an alien storm, Emma found wonder in everything around her. Ambassador Kithara had been unusually quiet all day. The crystal alien stood near the communication equipment, her body flickering with nervous blue and purple colors. She had been sending more frequent reports to her homeworld, and Sarah suspected the Zephyrians were becoming more worried about the human colony. "Ambassador," Sarah said, "is everything all right? You seem more concerned than usual." Cathara's diamond-like eyes turned toward her. "Dr. Chen, my people's sensors have detected increased movement in the northern forest. The apex predators are active during this storm. This is when they hunt." Before Sarah could respond, a new sound cut through the noise of the storm. It was the deep, haunting howl they had heard before, but much closer this time. The sound seemed to come from just beyond the tree line at the edge of their settlement. More howls joined the first one, creating a chorus that echoed across Haven Base even through the storm. But these calls were different from the distant ones they had recorded before. They were closer, stronger, and seemed to be coming from multiple directions around the base. "Alert! Alert!" The base's computer system activated automatically. Large life forms detected approaching the perimeter. All personnel to secure positions. The effect on the Zephyrians was immediate. All 5 crystal aliens in the base went completely rigid, their bodies becoming clear as glass. Ambassador Cathara began to vibrate with a high-pitched whining sound that mixed with the storm noise. "They're here," she whispered, her musical voice filled with terror. "The apex predators have come to hunt. They've surrounded us." Dr. Chen quickly activated the base's external sensors and cameras. On the main display screen, she could see movement in the forest around their settlement. Dark shapes moved between the trees, large forms that seemed to flow like shadows through the rain. Captain Santos appeared on the communication screen from the orbiting ship. "Dr. Chen, what's your status down there?" "We have 7 large creatures approaching the base perimeter," Sarah reported, trying to keep her voice calm. "They appear to be the lumen wolves we've been monitoring. Are they showing aggressive behavior?" Sarah watched the screen carefully. The creatures were moving closer, but slowly and carefully. They didn't seem to be rushing toward the base like attacking predators might. Instead, they appeared to be investigating, pausing frequently to observe the human structures. "I'm not seeing direct aggressive behavior," she said. "They're approaching cautiously, almost like they're curious about us." "Curious?" Ambassador Cathara's voice became a high musical shriek. "Apex predators do not show curiosity. They hunt, they kill. These creatures have surrounded your base to trap you before the attack." Emma had been listening quietly, but now she moved to stand beside her mother at the control station. "Mom, can we see them better?" "I want to watch them." "Emma, stay back from the windows," Sarah said. But she adjusted the external cameras to get a better view of the approaching creatures. On the screen, the lumen wolves became more visible as they moved into the open areas around the base. They were magnificent animals, larger than earth wolves with thick, dark fur marked by glowing blue stripes that seemed to pulse with their heartbeats. Their eyes reflected the base's lights like mirrors, and they moved with the fluid grace of natural predators. But something was different about their behavior. Instead of stalking or preparing to attack, they seemed to be studying the human settlement. One large wolf, clearly the leader of the pack, approached to within 50 meters of the main dome and sat down in the rain, simply watching. "Look at that," Dr. Chen whispered, adjusting the camera for a closer view. "That's not hunting behavior. That's observation." The largest wolf tilted its head to one side, and Emma gasped. "Mom, it's doing the same thing our dog Max does when he's trying to understand something." Sarah looked at her daughter in surprise, then back at the screen. The wolf was indeed tilting its head in a gesture that looked remarkably like a curious dog. As they watched, the creature stood up and took a few steps closer, then sat down again, still watching the base with obvious interest. "This is impossible," Ambassador Cathara said, her crystal body flickering rapidly between different colors. "Predators do not behave this way. They should be preparing to attack, not sitting and watching like domesticated animals." More howls echoed through the storm. But now Dr. Chen was listening to them with different ears. Using the base's audio analysis equipment, she could detect complex patterns in the calls, different tones, rhythms, and responses between the various pack members. "Captain," she reported to the orbiting ship, "I'm analyzing their vocalizations. These aren't hunting calls. The patterns suggest they're communicating with each other about us. It's almost like they're discussing what to do." The largest wolf suddenly stood up and approached even closer to the base. At 30 meters away, it stopped and made a sound unlike the howls they had heard before. It was softer, almost whimpering, with a questioning tone that reminded Sarah of a dog asking for attention. "Did you hear that?" Emma asked excitedly. "It sounds like it's trying to talk to us." "Impossible," Cathara repeated, but her voice had become uncertain. "Apex predators do not attempt communication with prey species." Dr. Chen made a decision. Against all safety protocols, she activated the base's external communication system. "I'm going to try responding to them," she announced. Dr. Chen, "That could be extremely dangerous," Captain Santos warned from the ship. "Or it could be the most important moment in human-alien relations," Sarah replied. She adjusted the communication system to broadcast outside the base and spoke clearly into the microphone. "Hello," she said simply. "We are humans. We come in peace." The effect was immediate. All 7 lumen wolves stopped moving and turned toward the base. The large leader took several steps forward, cocked its head again, and made another soft whimpering sound. Emma pressed against the control panel. "Mom, it answered you." It actually answered. For the next hour, an incredible exchange took place. Dr. Chen spoke calmly to the wolves, and they responded with various sounds, some like whimpers, others like soft howls, and still others that sounded almost like they were trying to copy human speech patterns. The Zephyrians watched in complete shock. Everything they had learned about predator behavior was being challenged by what they were seeing. These were clearly apex predators, powerful, intelligent, dangerous creatures, but they were not attacking. Instead, they seemed to be attempting some form of communication. "This changes everything," Captain Santos said from the ship. "Dr. Chen, you may be witnessing the first interspecies communication attempt with a native predator species." Ambassador Cathara stood frozen, her crystal body flickering rapidly through every color in the spectrum. "This should not be possible," she whispered. "My people have studied predator behavior for thousands of years. Apex predators do not communicate with other species. They dominate or destroy them." As the storm began to clear, the lumen wolves gradually moved back toward the forest, but the large leader remained for several more minutes sitting and watching the base. Finally, it stood up, made one more soft sound that seemed almost like a goodbye, and disappeared into the trees. Emma watched until the last wolf vanished from view. "They'll be back," she said confidently. "They're not scary at all. They're just trying to make friends." "Friends?" Kethera stared at the human child. "You see friendship where you should see mortal danger?" "I see curious animals who want to understand us," Emma replied. "Just like we want to understand them." That night, as the base settled down after the incredible encounter, Dr. Chen recorded her observations. The lumen wolves displayed behavior patterns completely contrary to typical predator-prey interactions. They approached cautiously, observed peacefully, and attempted communication. This suggests intelligence levels and social development far beyond what we expected from a native species. Ambassador Cathara sent her own report to the Zephyrian homeworld. The situation has become even more confusing. The apex predators approached the human base during a storm, the perfect hunting conditions were, but did not attack. Instead, they appeared to attempt communication. The humans responded without fear, and the child showed no proper prey responses whatsoever. "I no longer understand what is happening on this world. The predators are not behaving like predators, and the humans are not behaving like either predators or prey. I request guidance from the Alliance Council." As the alien stars came out after the storm, both species prepared for sleep, but neither humans nor Zephyri. The morning after the storm brought clear skies and warm sunshine to Haven Base. Dr. Sarah Chen woke early, excited to analyze the recordings from the previous night's encounter with the lumen wolves. She had spent hours reviewing the audio patterns, and the more she studied them, the more convinced she became that they had witnessed something truly remarkable. Emma bounced into the science lab while her mother was reviewing the data. The 8-year-old had already eaten breakfast and was eager to start the day's adventures. "Mom, can we go outside today? I want to look for the wolves." "Emma, we need to be very careful," Sarah said, though she had to admit she was just as curious as her daughter. "Those are wild animals and we still don't understand them completely." "But they were nice last night," Emma insisted. "They just wanted to say hello." "I could tell." Ambassador Cathara entered the lab, her crystal body still flickering with nervous colors from the night before. She had barely slept, spending most of the night sending reports back to her homeworld and trying to understand what she had witnessed. "Dr. Chen," Cathara said, "the Alliance Council has reviewed my reports. They are very concerned about what happened last night. They believe the apex predators may be studying your defenses before launching an attack." Sarah looked up from her computer screen. "Ambassador, did you watch the same recordings I did? Those animals showed curiosity, not aggression. Their body language, their vocalizations, everything suggested peaceful intent." "Impossible," Cathara replied, but her voice was less certain than before. "Predators do not show peaceful intent toward other species." "Maybe Zephyrian predators don't," Emma said, looking up from her drawing tablet. "But Earth predators can be really nice. My friend Jake has a pet snake and it's super friendly. And my neighbor Mrs. Patterson has 3 cats who love to cuddle." Cathara stared at the child in complete confusion. "You keep creatures that evolved to hunt you as companions?" "Well, they don't hunt us anymore," Emma explained patiently. "They live with us and we take care of each other. The cats catch mice and we give them food and warm places to sleep. It's like being a team." The crystal alien's body went completely clear, a sign of deep shock among her people. "Teams with predators?" Before Sarah could explain further, the base's sensors detected movement at the forest edge. On the main screen, they could see the lumen wolves returning. But this time something was different. "Look." Emma pressed her face to the screen. "They brought their babies." Indeed, the pack now included 3 smaller wolves, clearly juveniles based on their size and playful movements. The young wolves stayed close to the adults but seemed curious about everything around them, just like human children exploring a new playground. The large pack leader from the night before approached the base again, but this time it wasn't alone. Another adult wolf walked beside it, slightly smaller with more pronounced blue markings along its sides. The two animals moved together in a way that suggested they were partners. "That's the mom and dad," Emma announced confidently, "and those are their kids. They brought their whole family to meet us." Dr. Chen activated the external cameras for a better view. The Lumen wolves had stopped about 40 meters from the base, and the adults were clearly supervising the younger ones. When one juvenile wandered too close to the human structures, an adult would make a soft sound and guide it back to the group. "Family behavior," Sarah whispered, recording everything. "They're teaching their young, showing them boundaries, demonstrating social structure. This is incredibly sophisticated." Ambassador Kethara watched in stunned silence. Everything she knew about predator behavior said this should be impossible. Apex predators might bring their young on hunting expeditions, but they didn't introduce them to other species for peaceful contact. The largest wolf sat down and made the same soft whimpering sound they had heard the night before. It seemed to be directed at the base, almost like a greeting. "Mom," Emma said suddenly, "can I go outside? I want to say hi properly." "Absolutely not," Sarah said immediately. "Emma, those are still wild animals. We don't know how they'll react to a human outside the base." "But they have babies with them," Emma argued. "Animals with babies don't want to fight. They want to keep their kids safe. If they thought we were dangerous, they wouldn't bring their children here." Out of the mouths of babes, Sarah thought. Her 8-year-old daughter was making more sense than any of the trained scientists or experienced diplomats. "Dr. Chen," Captain Santos's voice came through the communication system from the orbiting ship. "We're monitoring the situation. What's your assessment?" "The Lumen wolves have returned with their young," Sarah reported. "Their behavior continues to suggest peaceful curiosity rather than aggression. They're maintaining a respectful distance and showing clear family social structures. The Alliance Council insists these are hunting behaviors," Ambassador Kethara interjected. "They believe the predators are teaching their young to identify human prey." Emma made a frustrated sound. "They're not hunting. Look at them." She pointed to the screen where one of the juvenile wolves had started playing, chasing its own tail in a circle while the adults watched tolerantly. Another young wolf was pouncing on what appeared to be a stick, shaking it back and forth in a game that looked exactly like a puppy playing with a toy. "Predator young do not play in the presence of prey species," Kethara said weakly, but her conviction was clearly shaking. "Those aren't predator young," Emma said with the absolute certainty that only children possess. "Those are just puppies. Really big puppies who want to play and make friends." As if responding to her words, the largest wolf stood up and approached a few steps closer to the base. Then, in a gesture that made everyone watching gasp in surprise, the magnificent creature lowered its front end to the ground while keeping its rear end up in the air. "Oh my," Dr. Chen breathed. "That's a playbow." "A what?" Kethara asked. "It's a universal canine gesture," Sarah explained, hardly believing what she was seeing. "Dogs do it when they want to play or show they're friendly. It's a signal that means I'm not threatening you." The wolf held the position for several seconds, then sat down and tilted its head to one side, the same curious gesture they had seen the night before. Emma was practically bouncing with excitement. "See, it's trying to tell us it wants to be friends. It's doing the same thing Max does when he wants to play." For the next hour, the humans and Lumen wolves engaged in an extraordinary form of communication. Dr. Chen spoke to them through the external speakers, and the wolves responded with various sounds. The juveniles grew bolder, approaching closer to the base while the adults supervised carefully. At one point, the smallest juvenile wolf picked up a stick and dropped it near the base, then backed away and sat down, watching expectantly. "It's bringing us a present," Emma said with delight. "Just like when Max brings us his tennis ball." Ambassador Kethara's crystal body had gone through every possible color and was now settling on a confused gray. "This cannot be happening," she whispered. "Everything my people know about predator behavior says this is impossible." "Maybe," Dr. Chen suggested gently. "Your people have never met predators like these before." As the Lumen wolves began to move back toward the forest, the pack leader made one more gesture that stunned everyone watching. It approached the stick that the juvenile had dropped, picked it up gently in its mouth, and placed it even closer to the base. Then it backed away and sat down, watching the humans with obvious expectation. "It's playing fetch," Emma said in wonder. "It wants us to throw the stick back." "Impossible," Cathara said, but her voice had lost all conviction. As the wolves disappeared back into the forest, Emma turned to her mother with shining eyes. "Mom, they're not scary at all. They're just big dogs who live in the forest. They want to be friends with us." That evening, Dr. Chen sent her report to Captain Santos. "The Lumen wolves have demonstrated complex social behaviors, family structures, and what appears to be genuine attempts at peaceful communication. Their actions suggest intelligence and emotional sophistication far beyond typical predator instincts. I believe we may be dealing with a sentient species that simply evolved along predator lines rather than prey lines." Ambassador Cathara's report to her home world was very different. "I no longer understand what I am observing. The apex predators are behaving in ways that contradict everything we know about predator nature. They show family bonds, playful behavior, and apparent desire for peaceful contact. The human child claims they are puppies, a term for domesticated predator companions. I am beginning to question whether our understanding of predator species is complete. I request immediate consultation with the Alliance's leading experts on predator behavior." As alien stars filled the sky above Haven Base, both species prepared for sleep with minds full of questions. The Zephyrians struggled to understand predators who acted like friends. The humans wondered if they had found the galaxy's first truly civilized predator species. And 8-year-old Emma Chen fell asleep dreaming of playing fetch with magnificent blue-striped wolves under the light of 2 alien suns, certain that tomorrow would bring even more wonderful discoveries about their new furry. 2 weeks had passed since Emma Chen declared the Lumen wolves to be just big puppies, and every day had brought new surprises. The wolf pack had begun visiting Haven Base regularly, always maintaining a respectful distance but clearly growing more comfortable with the human presence. Dr. Sarah Chen had established what she called Contact Protocol 7, a careful system of communication that allowed both species to interact safely. The humans would speak through external speakers, and the wolves would respond with their complex vocalizations. Slowly, patterns were emerging that suggested the beginnings of actual language exchange. Emma had become the unofficial pack ambassador. Whenever the wolves appeared, she would sit by the observation window and talk to them as if they were beloved pets. The large pack leader, whom she had named Silver because of his beautiful blue-gray markings, seemed to respond especially well to her voice. Ambassador Cathara had grown quieter over the past 2 weeks. The Zephyrian's crystal body flickered with confused colors as she struggled to understand what she was witnessing. Her reports to the Galactic Peaceful Alliance had become increasingly uncertain, filled with questions rather than the definitive warnings she had originally planned to send. On this particular morning, something was different. The wolves arrived at their usual time, but their behavior was agitated. Silver paced back and forth at the forest edge, making urgent whimpering sounds. The other adults seemed equally distressed, clustering together and looking toward the deeper forest. "Something's wrong," Dr. Chen observed, watching through the external cameras. "They're clearly upset about something." Emma pressed her face to the observation window. "Where's the littlest one?" "I don't see Patches." She was right. The smallest of the 3 juveniles, the one Emma had named Patches because of distinctive white markings on its chest, was nowhere to be seen. Silver suddenly approached much closer to the base than ever before, stopping just 20 meters away. The magnificent wolf sat down and made a sound unlike any they had heard before, a long, mournful howl that seemed to carry pain and pleading. "That's a distress call," Dr. Chen realized. "Something's happened to the young one." As if understanding her words, Silver stood up and looked directly at the base, then toward the forest, then back at the base. The gesture was unmistakably clear. He wanted the humans to follow. "Mom," Emma said urgently, "they need our help. Something's wrong with Patches." Before Dr. Chen could respond, the other adult wolves approached, supporting something between them. As they came closer, the humans could see it was the missing juvenile. Patches was limping badly, favoring one front leg that appeared to be injured. "Oh no," Emma whispered. "The baby's hurt." Ambassador Cathara moved to stand behind Dr. Chen, her crystal body flickering with nervous energy. "Dr. Chen, what are they doing? Why are they bringing their injured young here?" The answer became clear as Silver approached even closer, gently taking the injured pup from the other adults. With infinite care, the large wolf carried the young one to within 10 meters of the base and set it down on the soft grass. Then Silver backed away and sat down, watching the humans with obvious expectation. "They're asking for help," Dr. Chen breathed. "They're bringing their injured child to us for medical assistance." "Impossible," Cathara said weakly. "Predators do not trust other species with their young. It goes against every survival instinct." Emma was already moving toward the base's airlock. "Mom, we have to help Patches. Look how scared and hurt it is." "Emma, wait," Dr. Chen called. But she was already thinking the same thing. The injured pup was clearly in pain, and the pack had deliberately brought it to the humans for help. This was an unprecedented level of trust between species. "Dr. Chen," Captain Santos's voice came through the communication system. "Are you seriously considering direct contact?" "Captain, they've brought us their injured young," Sarah replied, gathering her medical equipment. This is either the most elaborate trap in galactic history, or the most significant moment in interspecies relations. I believe it's the latter. Against all safety protocols, Dr. Chen made the decision to exit the base. She approached slowly, hands visible and empty except for her medical scanner. The pack watched her carefully but showed no signs of aggression. The injured pup lay where Silver had placed it, whimpering softly. Its left front leg was clearly damaged, possibly broken from a fall or caught in something. The young wolf's eyes were bright with pain and fear, but it didn't try to move away as Dr. Chen approached. "Easy, little one," Sarah said softly, kneeling beside the injured animal. "Let me take a look." Behind her, Emma had followed despite her mother's warnings. The 8-year-old girl sat down near the pup's head and began speaking in the same gentle voice she used with her pets back on Earth. "It's okay, Patches," Emma whispered. "We're going to help you feel better. Don't be scared." The response was immediate and remarkable. The injured pup stopped whimpering and turned its head toward Emma's voice. As the girl continued talking softly, the young wolf actually relaxed, its breathing becoming calmer. Dr. Chen ran her medical scanner over the injured leg. "It's a clean break," she announced. "Painful but treatable. I can set it and apply a biofoam cast that will heal completely." Silver had been watching intently, and as Dr. Chen began working on the injury, the large wolf did something that made Ambassador Cathara's crystal body go completely clear with shock. The pack leader lay down next to his injured young one and began making soft, rumbling sounds, the wolf equivalent of purring. "He's comforting his child," Emma said with delight. "Just like my mom comforts me when I'm hurt." For the next hour, an extraordinary scene unfolded. Dr. Chen worked carefully to set and heal the broken bone, while Emma kept the pup calm with gentle words and soft touches. Silver remained close by, occasionally nuzzling his young one and making reassuring sounds. The other pack members maintained a respectful distance but watched every movement carefully. There was no tension, no threat, only the focused attention of parents watching their child receive medical care. When the treatment was complete, Dr. Chen stepped back to admire her work. The biofoam cast would dissolve naturally as the bone healed, and the pup should be running normally within a few days. Patches struggled to its feet, testing the new cast. The young wolf took a few careful steps, then looked up at Dr. Chen and Emma, with what could only be described as gratitude. But the most remarkable moment came next. Patches approached Emma and gently licked her hand, the universal gesture of affection among Earth's canines. "It's saying thank you," Emma said with wonder. Silver approached then, and for a moment Dr. Chen wondered if she had made a terrible mistake. But the large wolf simply touched his nose to her hand briefly, then stepped back and made a soft sound that clearly conveyed appreciation. Over the following days, the relationship between humans and lumen wolves changed completely. The pack began spending more time near the base, and the juveniles grew bold enough to play in sight of the human settlement. Patches, still wearing its cast, became especially friendly with Emma, often sitting near the observation windows when she was inside. Dr. Chen established formal communication protocols, and slowly basic language exchange began to develop. The wolves had complex vocalizations for different concepts: family, food, safety, play, and even what appeared to be names for individual pack members. Ambassador Cathara watched all of this with growing amazement. Everything she had been taught about predator behavior was being challenged daily. Finally, she approached Dr. Chen with a question that had been troubling her. Dr. Chen, how is it possible for your species to understand these creatures so well? You are also predators, yet you seem to know exactly how to interact with them. Sarah smiled. Ambassador, I think that's exactly why we understand them. We share similar evolutionary backgrounds. On Earth, humans learned thousands of years ago that some predators make the best companions. Wolves, cats, even some reptiles and birds. We discovered that intelligence and social bonds are more important than hunting instincts. But how did you overcome the urge to compete with other predators? Emma, who had been listening, answered with the simple wisdom of childhood. Because being friends is more fun than fighting. When you're friends, you can help each other and play together and take care of each other's families. That evening, as the Lumen Wolf pack settled down for the night near the base perimeter, something unprecedented happened. Silver approached the main dome and placed a large, beautiful stone near the entrance. It was clearly a gift, a gesture of friendship and alliance. Dr. Chen picked up the stone, admiring its smooth surface and unusual crystalline formations. She held it up so Silver could see, then placed it carefully in a position of honor near the base entrance. Thank you, she said simply. We accept your friendship. Silver tilted his head, made a soft sound that seemed to acknowledge her words, then settled down with his pack for the night. Ambassador Kethara sent her final report to the Galactic Peaceful Alliance that night. I have witnessed something that challenges every assumption our civilization has made about predator species. The humans and the native wolves have formed what can only be described as an alliance based on mutual respect, shared intelligence,